Okay, so let's jump right into Photoshop. What I'm showing here is Photoshop Elements 10, so it's a little bit older, but the basic operation is not different in the newer versions. And many other programs have copied a lot of things from Photoshop. But the main things that you want to see that are different here is that there's usually a tool palette that is quite a bit more complex over here. And in addition, there's a thing called layers. So if you're not familiar with digital painting, that is extremely key in most digital painting. You want to have that capability. And the other thing is, there is usually a window entry on your menu, and you can make the different parts of the program visible or hide them so that you've got more space to draw and paint, or you've got controls. Now, the layers are the things that allow you to draw on top. I won't get into that too much here, assuming that people are familiar with those kinds of things. But if you're not familiar with layers, that's something that's very important in digital painting. You need to have a program that has that capability. But in the Layers panel, there's usually going to be a button that you click to create a new layer, and then you can start drawing. Now, in Photoshop, the way you draw is that there is going to be one tool that is your brush. So I'm going to click on that brush, but then in the upper left, or depending upon your version, you may have moved it around. You can move these things around. And so I can select the different types of brushes. So here I've got a yellow brush, and I'm just going to paint here. Well, I can change that to a completely different kind of brush and get all different kinds of effects. So that is very common in the more advanced programs, which is the ability to have many, many different brushes. Now, Photoshop has that same paradigm about to delete everything on the layer. You have to do a selection. So I'm going to select, and here we'll select all, and then I press delete, and I can erase everything on the layer. If I press Control D, it gets rid of that selection if I want to do that. Another thing to show about brushes, if I right click on a particular brush, there are options depending upon your version of Photoshop where you can create different kinds of brushes. So that can get confusing because you've got the tools that you select here, and then the right click and get more tools, and then the drop down tools, and then there's different categories of tools. So that just might take a little bit getting used to. The other thing to be aware of is that pen pressure here. If you're going to get into digital painting, you need to have a tablet, and it's mainly because of that pen pressure and just the ability to paint where you want. Now, very quickly, the other thing to show is over here you see the standard eyedropper tool that we had talked about, and the ability to manipulate your canvas, and then the selection tools. So in the advanced programs, you have much more power in terms of being able to select things. And you can create masks and all kinds of things like that. But there's lots of power with respect to that. But from the basics, we see the same kind of thing. The brush, the eraser, and the eyedropper tool, as well as your hand and your magnifying glass to zoom in and out.